Well, thank you for that, Patrick. And I mean, we'll see what happens on the route, obviously. But we could start with the champion. Well, we can't because that was Primoz Roglic, and he kind of proved what I said earlier that the curse still is there because he won this. I didn't win the Tour last year, and he won it before and didn't win the Tour. So Roglic is the one who proves the rule. I don't know who to go with first because Vingegaard, obviously, he was coming back from his recovery. Tadej Pogacar was recovering from the Giro d'Italia as well. So let's start with Remco Evenepoel because he was actually at the race last year. You don't want to start with Remco?
Well, I was just confused by the reasoning.
He was the only one who was there out of the big three.
Well, Jorgensen came second last year.
Oh, right. Okay. But yeah, fine. We'll start with Visma Bike. Jonas Vingegaard and Matteo Jorgensen, of course, they combined at Paris-Nice. They combined at the Tour de France last year as well to good success. And I mean, if it wasn't for the crash that Vingegaard had in Paris-Nice while he had the leader's jersey as well, maybe it could have been a 1-2, who knows. But I don't know how you feel about Jonas Vingegaard. I mean, he's been here, there, and everywhere. Syria, Nevada, up in the high mountains in France as well. Really keeping quiet ever since that crash. Not coming back, not putting any real urgency to come back. And they were saying things like they don't really care about races that aren't in July. Last year, he had no racing leading up to the race. So if he has one race, maybe it'll be even better. But what do you make of Visma Bike and Vingegaard and also the team they're bringing as well?
I think Jonas has got a very good chance of winning this. It's hard to have a read on them, like you say, outside of just they've done a training camp, which they usually do, and they're getting miles in, which they usually do. And it's like, okay, it's I can't really read that much into that. Like, there's no power data. It's all just like looking at them and just, looking into your crystal ball and see what people can come up with. I mean, what we do know is that, yes, Jonas did crash in Paris-Nice, and he hasn't had a lot of race days this year, but that's not really abnormal for him to, not race a lot. He's only had 10 race days so far this year. That's not a lot, but I don't think it really matters that much. I don't think that injury will be hampering him. It was in March, guys. I was like, a whole lot has happened since Jonas crashed, including like Poggy winning Flanders, Van der Poel winning Roubaix. There's been a lot going on. And I think Jonas can't be underestimated. It's terrain that suits him. It's got a good TT in there. He's got a strong team to keep him out of trouble for the first few stages. And then those mountain stages towards the end are very, very suited to him. It's a great route for Jonas's characteristics. In terms of the team that they're bringing, like you mentioned, Jorgensen is coming here. He was second last year, won Paris-Nice earlier this year. Him and Jonas seem to combine really well together. And alongside those two, there's at the moment Campenarts, Sepp Kuss, and Attila Valter. Yeah, I mean, Valter's come off of the Tour of Norway. Campenart's kind of like a new signing for the year, looking to, just be a good domestique in there. And Sepp Kuss be interesting to see what he can do. Didn't really make that much of a splash last year. Hasn't really made that much of a splash this year. But, he's a guy who performs on the big occasion. I think that this is going to be a big dress rehearsal, and I expect them to be firing on all cylinders. It'll just be interesting to see who fills out those other kind of two slots in the team.
Yeah, probably not Simon Yates, the Giro d'Italia champion. I think he's going to slot into the team in the Tour, not here. But yeah, I mean, Jonas Vingegaard, he is such a good 1 week stage racer. He's won the Tour of Basque Country, he's won Tirreno Adriatico. Okay, he hasn't won Paris-Nice. He's the only Dane to finish on the podium there, or has Skjelmose done it since then? Can't remember. We'll get on to Skjelmose. But yeah, Au Grand Camino, he was kind of reigning there and won Tour of Poland last year. So he's very adept at this like 1 week effort. But it will be those two stages will be very, very key just to see how he's faring up against Tadej, because we'll get on to Tadej. I don't want to disrespect the Vingegaard segment. But yeah, Tadej hasn't got a great record in this race, but we'll get to that. How does Vingegaard play this? Is it literally just the two mountains in the last days that are gonna win or lose this?
I don't know. I think there's time to be gained and lost. Well, all over the place, really. Well, not necessarily gained in the first few stages, but certainly lost lots of short, sharp climbs. Poggy's better at those sorts of efforts than Vingegaard is. So I expect UE to put a little bit of pressure on in those first few days and see what they can do to really rattle Visma bike. I'm not sure how successful that'll be, but that's what I expect them to do, knowing that Jonas's strength comes later on in the race. I think the TT will be interesting as well. It's not that long. There's a climb in the middle of there. I'll be interested to see who kind of comes out on top out of Poggy or Jonas. They're both incredible time trialists, and they've both had the better of each other on separate occasions. So it's hard to call who's the better time trialist over that sort of terrain. I would say based on form, Poggy is marginally better, but I don't think it's going to be a big difference in time. It's going to be an interesting battle. Jonas has got to get through those first few days, I think, as best, and just not lose time to Tadej, and then really play those last few days, especially, I'd say stage 7 and 8, it's hard to tell which one's better. I'd say that stage 7 has a cumulative more fatigue, which in theory suits Jonas a bit better. That's tends to be the stages he does better on, but the average gradient of the last climb isn't as severe, and averaging up to Valmenier, and it's not that hard. There'll be a drafting benefit for sure. I think it'll be quite hard to split the group unless you set a hard pace throughout the day on the Madeleine and the Col de la Croix de Fer. So I think Visma have got to set that pace pretty much on that day and really try to take it to Tadej.
Are you worried about the early form that we saw with Vingegaard? I was really surprised in the Vuelta al Algarve because I thought on the Alto de Foya, okay, it's not the hardest climb in the world gradient-wise, but we have seen Tadej Pogacar and Remco Evenepoel, younger versions, really try at least get some kind of selection, and there was a selection, but Jonas wasn't in it, and I was quite confused by that. And then we saw in Paris-Nice, he stage 4 was it, where it was an uphill, Vingegaard attacks, and you're like, well, guys, it's over. Vingegaard's going, no one's going to bring him back. And then Almeida claws him back and pips in on the line. I don't know if it was him being weaker or not as strong, or Almeida just being an absolute weapon on that day.
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both, I would say. And also, I don't think that stage, Jonas did, okay, he didn't win the day, but you don't know what kind of prep or level he was supposed to be at that point of the year. You'd think it would be good, but I think something that is in Visma's favour is that they've got Jorgensen here as well, who is better over those shorter, snappier efforts. And if he can follow Pogacar, then he can just anchor him and will probably not work with him. And Jorgensen's not a nobody card to be playing. He can follow Tadej on those shorter accelerations and then just not work and then let Visma try bring it back. And if it doesn't come back, then Jorgensen gains time with Tadej. I think the small thing that's in Jonas's favour is that I don't think there are any bonus seconds on the top of any of these climbs, 6, 4 and 2, because otherwise Tadej would be mopping up a good few sets of bonus seconds, at least 10, I'd say, over Jonas. So I think it's, they just got to get through those first few days, in my opinion, and just try and negate Tadej's aggressive nature, racing nature, let's say. I don't think he actually is I don't think he's an aggressive kind of person.
We might as well get to him now. Tadej Pogacar, why has he not done this year? He's finished on podium